Perfect. Well, buenas tardes, buenos días, depending on when you're finding us today. Bienvenidos. Welcome to todas, todos, y todes. We are so excited to have you join us for this incredible day as we get to share a little bit of our Corazón with you and the incredible work of our partners and our grantees in the South and Southeast. I do want to quickly pause and just start by acknowledging the challenges that our communities and our partners are facing in this current moment. It is not lost on us that we are speaking about building power. We are speaking about the impact of these organizations at a time where our Southern communities, Southeast communities have been devastatingly impacted by Hurricane Helene. So just really want to honor that and understand the context by which we're bringing this presentation today. As we begin, as I mentioned, thank you for joining us for this incredible day. My name is Jazmín Chávez, and I'm the Vice President of Movement Building and Infrastructure at Hispanics and Philanthropy. And it is my pleasure to welcome every single one of you to this incredible event. A few housekeeping items as we begin. To activate the interpretation feature on Zoom, please find and click the globe labeled interpretation here at the bottom. Select the language you would like to hear as an option. If you would like to not hear the original audio, click mute original. Para activar la función de interpretación en el Zoom, busque y haga clic en el globo etiquetado como interpretación, seleccione el idioma que le gustaría escuchar y adicionalmente, si no desea escuchar el audio original, haga clic en silencio original. So part of what brought us to this moment is really the incredible work that is led with our Gender, Race, and Power team. Our Gender, Race, and Power initiative is a comprehensive program that is really designed to support the courageous individuals and organizations at the forefront of the fight for social justice. Gender, Race, and Power links our existing gender equity, racial equity, and power building and justice programs. And we are taking a much broader transnational focus to our movement building work, recognizing that the systems of inequity have a transnational impact and can also be dismantled through an intersectional approach and a transnational lens. To date, our Gender, Race, and Power program has mobilized over $14 million to support our grassroots partners and their networks in civic engagement, working against violence against women, political power, building political power, ending human trafficking, building the leadership and the capacity of our partner organizations, building multiracial democracies, and we've invested over $9 million directly contributed to the frontline movement building organizations in Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Peru, Chile, Bolivia, and in the Southern United States. So what you are going to hear today is the incredible work of our Power Building and Justice program that is led by someone that I absolutely admire deeply. And we're so lucky to have at HIP, Bajuan Roselo Cornier, who is really the director of Power Building and Justice and a co-director of Gender, Race, and Power. How we got here into this moment is because back in 2021, we received a Johns Hopkins report, or we commissioned a report that really highlighted the need to invest in the leadership, the infrastructure, and the power of organizations that are doing incredible work in the South and the Southeast, as well as the Southwest, but also with this very specific lens in rural communities. This work has been spearheaded. It's been designed by Bajuan Roselo, and we're just so excited to have him be the one who's leading this work as a movement organizer and someone who is deeply connected to community, both on the ground and also on the philanthropic side. We could not have done this work without an incredible amount of partners and the leadership of even our grantees in building this effort together. But one of our incredible partners is Revolve Impact. Revolve Impact is if you're looking for a partner that is amazing, that is cutting future forward thinking, Revolve Impact is definitely the agency that you want to go with. They are a movement-driven, creative, and award-winning agency that has extensive experience designing innovative communications campaigns, capacity building strategies, and their expertise has consistently led to cultural and policy changes. This made them a strong partner for HIP's programmatic development, coordination, and the implementation of how we wanted to support and really service our grantees in the South, the Southeast, and the Southwest. Specifically, they helped contribute to the capacity building strategy of over 20 Latinx and BIPOC-led equity-centered organizations and community leaders across the Southwest. So with that, it is my absolute power to bring up Revolve Impact, to really welcome everybody into this program, and I will hand it off to our team. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jazmín, for that wonderful intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Mariela Rosario. I'm the Director of Communications and Content with Revolve Impact. And alongside my sister and colleague at Revolve, Carola Secada, we've helped Bajuan facilitate the Power Building and Justice Coalition for the last 2 years. It's been an absolutely beautiful and transformative experience. And we've really worked hard to center specific values that we as a group identified really early on. So first and foremost, we acknowledge the necessity of healing-centered spaces for the survival of our BIPOC communities. These types of spaces that HIP allowed us to foster are really important in building solidarity and empowering ourselves and our communities to share our experiences and lift each other up. And we recognize as a group that this is how we can heal both individually and collectively. In this space, we also made it a point to honor every individual's cultural identity, heritage, and practices. And in doing so, hopefully fostered pride and strengthened our community connections, which we feel is really crucial for resilience in this incredibly challenging world, as Jazmín just mentioned. Centering these values really created the environment necessary to help give us the forza to continue confronting systemic injustices, promote our own personal liberation, and it was really essential in building this movement of resistance and allowing our communities to thrive, not only survive, but really thrive in this society that really marginalizes most of our voices. So without further ado, I'd love to share the narrative project that we worked on alongside these incredible partners that we had from the South and Southwest, who have been on the front lines, putting their blood, sweat, and tears and bodies on the line for all of us and protecting all of our rights and advancing social justice in every step that they take. And with that, I will allow you guys to see the video.
HIP's Gender, Race, and Power initiative empowers Latine, Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities by fostering trust and healing to dismantle systemic racism. As part of our power building and justice mission, we are focused on grassroots organizations in the South and Southwest of the U.S. The work is intended to influence philanthropy and support transformative movements. In the face of white supremacy and anti-immigrant rhetoric, HIP has and continues to build an ecosystem of solidarity, amplifying Latine leadership and expanding networks for policy change and community empowerment. Today, 21 organizations are involved, advancing civic engagement, immigration advocacy, climate justice, civil rights, and much more. Your support has been and continues to be integral to driving impactful change in our communities.
We can't do this work without connecting at a human level with ourselves and with those who we are here to build power with.
One thing I've learned with power building and justice has really been just the sacredness of us being able to have a space together as leaders, of us being able to unpack some of what is happening internally in our movements, and really get at, okay, how do we strengthen our operations, our training, our management to be able to really fortify who is doing the work so that externally we can do the power building and we can win campaigns.
It has been a resource. It's been a respite. It has been a rejuvenation. It has been, I think, what true collaboration could and should be.
It's important that we, as we do the work, we sometimes reflect on our own trauma as people with lived experience.
Community organizers do not do this work because of the money. They do it because it's personal. It's our gente, it's our people, it's our issues, it's our parents, our tias, our neighbors' issues. It becomes a part of you and can take over, And so you have to prioritize healing and rest.
Well, PVJ has been with me in my whole evolution of motherhood. What is about childcare and how you are a mama movement at the same time, how you deal with life. So PVJ provide me that space, a safe space to really discover who I am as a mother.
honestly, one always feels like we're in a constant battle, battle for our rights, for our livelihoods. But we belong there and we're fighting for a home, but finding a space where we can honestly breathe and reflect, you can put a value to that.
It's important for us to remember who we are, where we come from, to see ourselves as part of the community, not just workers within the community.
When we find more common ground with each other, we can find more solutions. We can bring ourselves into new levels of power building that break that ceiling for organizing that we've all been hitting.
It is so important for philanthropy to not only resource, but to know how to resource rural communities, because BIPOC people are moving to rural communities and are popular. We're there. We're not going to build power as Latinos, as immigrant-led organizations, as BIPOC-led organizations, if we're not investing in rural communities at the national level.
One thing that I learned about myself through my work with Power and Justice was that I have the power to show up in places as myself, and that I should not be ashamed, and that I should continue taking up space.
I think it's important for philanthropy to resource these types of spaces in our movement, because we're thinking long term. We're not doing this for an election cycle, for a season, for a year. We're doing this until we win.
When philanthropy listens, change gets done. And I think Hispanics in Philanthropy really hit the nail on the head. And also the leader that we have was also listening to us.
My hope for the future of the Power Building Justice Group is that it continues, that it gives others the opportunity that it has given me.
I wish the team that I work with was here to experience this, because it's so uplifting, it's so empowering, and so I want them to experience and feel that for themselves.
Thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. I hope you felt it in your heart as much as we felt it when we were creating it together as a group. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce Grita, Canta, Vota, and Bacilia Ángel.
Thank you, Mariela, and thank you, HIP, for having me here today. We are honored to be here and to tell you a little bit more about what Grita, Canta, Vota is. So it is a new national nonpartisan campaign that was launched this year with the mission of empowering Latinos to vote using music. We believe in the power of music. We believe in the power of artist voices. And so we are engaging Latinos nationwide to become more civically engaged and be part of our democratic process. And we're engaging people for long-term engagement. We truly believe that every Latino should have the opportunity to shape our community and our nation through the power of our vote. And this is why we truly believe in music, and music is a key part of Hispanic culture, Latino culture. And so we are partnering with artists. We are partnering so much so that we have a song, we have a music video called Grita, Canta, Vota. And we're activating through artists, as well as at music festivals and concerts, on the radio, as well as we are launching a new series. It's called Vota Palooza. And this festival series will be across 5 different states in 5 cities, where Latinos are coming together to learn about voting, as well as where we have big name artists performing and talking about the power of vote and singing, and we celebrating our culture. And so with that, I'm excited to introduce Lupita, who is one of our artists, and she will be performing at our Vota Palooza musical festival series. And so Lupita, she's a Mexican-American singer-songwriter. I've got to see her perform a few times now, and she sings beautifully. She's from the U.S., California, but I'll let her share her story. And she's an award winner, and so I'm grateful to introduce Lupita Infante.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lupita. I'm here with Sunny. And I'm really excited to be singing at the Vota Palooza with Grita, Canta, Vota. Thank you so much for inviting me to get involved. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a daughter of an immigrant mother, and I'm really excited to share some music with everybody today. So my first song I'm gonna sing for you is called Serenata. And I think, well, we all know what a serenata is. A serenade traditionally, it's a guy who takes a serenade, but changing things up a little bit, I decided it'd be really cool. What about if a woman took a serenade to her love? So this is a serenata. Dame drama, drama. No es normal que te traiga serenata, pero ya mi corazón no puede más. No me importa lo que digan tus vecinos, no entenderás lo que sentimos. Un te amo por mensajes muy fríos. Lo antiguo siempre gana en el amor. Con mariachi gritaré que eres mío. Para querer tengo mi estilo. Eres tú lo más grande de mi vida. Es chiquito el mundo si me miras. He venido a recordarte que te amo, como no te lo imaginas. Eres tú la pasión que no se acaba. Tus besos, estoy enamorada. No te asustes si a tu casa se aparezca cantando una dama. ¿Quién dijo que las mujeres y arriba las mujeres no llevan serenata? Eso. All right, all right. Y bueno, this next song, these next two songs I'm gonna do, I have just written them in the past year. And this next one coming up is called Mexicana, and it's about the Mexican American experience and just kind of feeling like you're not necessarily from here, ni de allá, ni de aquí, ni de allá, but nevertheless, you're proud of who you are. I'm a very proud Chicana, so this is called Mexicana. Si pensaban que mi corazón era bien frágil, eso de hacerme daño no va a estar tan fácil. Neta que me hacen reír con eso que se inventa. Solo lo que les conviene, eso siempre cuenta. Si mi brillo incomoda, pónganse una venda. A mí siempre me van a ver al tiro. Son contados los amigos, la lealtad es para exclusivos. Critican que nací con dos banderas, que de plano no hay talento, al talento no hay escuela. Por la chinga de mis padres le echo ganas, aunque digan lo que digan, sigo siendo mexicana. No elegí dónde nacer, pero lo tengo claro. Donde se le da la gana nace un mexicano. No podrán hacerme menos, sé bien cuánto valgo. A mí siempre me van a ver al tiro, son contados los amigos, la lealtad es pa' exclusivos. Critican que nací con dos banderas, que de plano no hay talento, para el talento no hay escuela. Por la chinga de mis padres le echo ganas, aunque digan lo que digan, sigo siendo mexicana. Gracias, gracias. And so this will be my last song. I just want to thank you, Grita, Canta, Vota, for making me part of the concert series that's happening. I'm really excited to get out there and then share these songs with our community. This next song, Sunny, who's playing guitar with me today, and I wrote it. And it was during a time where I had this, like, it was like a Latinx youth conference. And you know how kids are, they decided to send what is it called? An airdrop. An airdrop of a message that had to be taken seriously, maybe like a threat, you know, maybe like a gun violence type of threat. So in the moment of uncertainty and not really knowing what the hell, and just with everything that's been happening in our country with the mass shootings, we were both really scared and didn't exactly know what to do. Thankfully, it was a false alarm, nothing happened, but I can just imagine the fear that the people experience when they're involved in something so tragic. So this song is called Yo Quiero Vivir. And okay, vámonos con esto que dice así. Si algo te hace falta y te sientes lejos de casa, recuerda que estoy aquí. Yo seré tus armas, estaré de guardaespaldas hasta el fin, el fin, el fin. Aunque llueva balas, sanaremos estos traumas, yo lo doy. Espérame. I'm sorry. Okay. Que llueva. Aunque llueva balas, sanaremos estos traumas, yo lo doy todo por ti. Quédate con todo, que eres todo lo que tengo y sin ti yo no puedo vivir. Yo quiero vivir. Yo quiero vivir. Sorry, guys. mi vida junto a ti. Y el mundo corre, somos frágil, todo cambia, nunca es fácil. Somos frutos de un mismo árbol, baja el arma que yo quiero vivir. Yo quiero vivir. Yo quiero vivir mi vida junto a ti. Didn't think that was gonna make me so emotional, but that's called Yo Quiero Vivir. And thank you so much for having me, Grita, Canta, Vota, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, it was a beautiful song, and I'm also all emotional. And I think this is beautiful, and there's no better way to transition to now what we want to see. It's a trailer of a documentary following the story of a 12 BIPOC youth on the hike of a lifetime, bringing them to Citlatepec, the highest peak in Mexico and the largest volcano on the continent. This journey is a summit that they not only gonna just climb, but they will reconnect with their family as documented, former undocumented, and children of Mexican immigrants to their lands, to the culture, after years of separation and centuries of systematic disconnection. This film, called The Return, is an exploration of ancestral lands, a reconnection to our indigenous knowledge, to our purpose of who we are, expose the climate change, the immigration system, but mainly a powerful exploration of reclaiming who we are as a full humans and the connection of what is the impact that we want to see in this world. So enjoy this trailer. Thank you so much for this music. That is the best way to just introduce The Return.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes, buenos días, good morning a todos. I am Bajoan Rosario. I am the co-director of Gender, Race, and Power, Hispanics, and Philanthropy. Excited to be here with you today. Want to give thanks to Jazz for starting today, for Bacilia, Mariela, Lupita Infante, Eli, really powerful music, really powerful trailer. Just a little bit about myself and leading into the panel today. I was brought onto HIP to build out the Power Building and Justice program. As someone who's worked as a union and community organizer for 12 years, I was excited for the opportunity to build a program heavily informed by my time in the field, a program that centered community, that leans into trust-based philanthropic practices, and is moving us away from philanthropy's history of extraction and exploitation. In 2022, HIP committed $2.5 million through PB&J over 3 years to 21 organizations across the South and Southwest. We started off with a group of 10 partners. Then, in partnership with Hispanic Federation, we onboarded 7 new organizations from Florida. In the past year, onboarded 2 new organizations from the Southwest. We also invited all 21 organizations to join a participatory learning and movement leader-centered space. A space not tied to a grant agreement letter, a space that they would co-create, and something beautiful began to take shape. In partnership with Revolve Impact, the learning community became a space fundamentally grounded in healing justice. It became a space built on trust where movement leaders across 9 states, spanning more than 2,300 miles, could collectively pause, rest, heal, laugh, cross-pollinate ideas, stories, practices, and wins. And today I would like to introduce you to the panelists, 4 of my favorite people in this work and why I stay doing what I do at Hispanics in Philanthropy as part of the Power Building and Justice Program. We have, as already introduced, Cuna, Executive Director of the Semilla Project from the Southwest, Daniela Rodriguez, Executive Director of Migrant Equity Southeast, based in rural South Georgia, Rosa Velázquez, Executive Director of the Arkansas Movement Collective, based in Arkansas, and Felipe Sousa-Lazaballet, Executive Director of Hope Community Center in Central Florida. Thank you all for joining us today. Really excited to be in conversation with you for the next 30 to 40 minutes. We will have an opportunity for Q&A from the audience members, so if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I will try to get to some of them before we wrap up today. And so to start off, I really want to ground this conversation in our stories, in your experience, in your expertise. So curious to know, like, what brought you to this work? And I know you can each write a book about your story, but let's keep it to 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to pass the mic first to Rosa. I'm just going to go around Rosa, Daniela, Felipe, and then Eli to round us off.
Thank you so much, Joan. Buenas tardes, folks. Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Velázquez. My passion for immigrants' rights began in 2010 when the Federal DREAM Act was coming up for a vote. 2 of the 5 votes that failed the DREAM Act came from Arkansas. And I became really angry. And that's where I started to look for resources. I met an organization called United We Dream. Being undocumented, I felt that I found a place where I belonged. I was elected as a national coordinator for the Mid-South region of the country. And during my time as national coordinator, I engaged, I advocated, I empowered, and helped build a national immigrant youth movement that was geared towards student activism and community organizing. My work ranged from passing local city resolutions that aided immigrant families to passing state laws like the Arkansas DREAM Act and Arkansas licensure for documented students. And at the center of it was building a youth-led immigrant advocacy program for tons of dreamers at that time. And I continue to do my work. I am continuing to help youth and work with them in community organizing. I have some amazing folks that I'm working with, Mega, Maria, Bella, that I continue to invest in because somebody gave me an opportunity when I was youth, because I'm no longer young, but somebody gave me an opportunity and I want to be that pillar of support for our youth, because even though we may not see, the immigration reform passing in my lifetime, I know that my youth will be able to lead those efforts to make sure that it happens in theirs.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me today, and buenas tardes a todos. Oh my God. So I started my work back in 2012, back in the day when I was a senior, in high school. Growing up in Georgia, I found myself feeling hopeless and frustrated when I was trying to become a college student in the state of Georgia. I had so many hopes and so many dreams, but when I was only 17, I found out that my status as an undocumented person made it difficult to have access to higher education. For those who don't know, currently in the state of Georgia, undocumented college students, even those with DACA, have to pay out-of-state tuition, which can be up to 3 times as much than regular tuition. And we're also not allowed to enroll in some of the top public universities, such as the University of Georgia and Georgia Tech. We could graduate as the valedictorian, the top of the class, but we still cannot enroll. There is, currently as we speak, there's education segregation in the state of Georgia. So I started as a young student organizer, and I advocated so that other undocumented students like me could have access to higher education. Because at the end of the day, education is a human right. And just like Rosa, I had the the values and principle that maybe I was not going to enjoy the benefits and privilege of having access to institution, but I wanted the next generation to have access to something that I didn't have. But besides education advocacy, as a person who grew up in a small town in South Georgia, I witnessed the lack of access to resources for low-income immigrant communities in the South. I saw how my own family, members of my community had to drive to the big cities to look for resources and help. I witnessed discrimination, I witnessed inequality, and I wanted to find solutions. And that is how I became involved in the movement for education justice and advocacy for rural communities in the South.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Felipe Sousa-Lazaballet. My pronouns are he and they, and I am the executive director here at the Hope Community Center in Central Florida. Hope Community Center is a hub for immigrant and LGBTQ plus advocacy, civic engagement, and we do service to organizing pipeline because we believe that we gotta meet people where they're at and walk with them until they find their voice. I began as an undocumented young person. I came to the United States when I was 14 years old and quickly realized I was undocumented. And when that happened, I had to confront the fact that I couldn't go to college, that at the time in Florida, we didn't have in-state tuition. And every single time I got in the car and drove to the grocery store, that could be the last day of my life in this country. And all of that came to head for me more or less in 2007 when I saw on TV the story of a dreamer just like myself that had been detained, but his high school friends fought for him and was able to get him out of detention. And I just remember looking at the TV and thinking to myself, that's me. And at the end of it, the youth organizer at the Florida Immigrant Coalition at the time gave his cell phone, and I called and said, hey, I want to get involved. And ever since, my life has changed. I oftentimes say that the movement saved my life. I was depressed. I felt alone. I was a queer person in the closet. And I found my way by the grace and love that our movement leaders gave me. I quickly became involved. Later on, back in 2009, was able to join an organization that led a march from Miami to Washington, D.C. called the Trail of Dreams, where we fought for DACA before DACA existed. And it's such an incredible opportunity to be on a panel like this because Rosa and Ellie and I were hand in hand, working to build the United We Dream, to build a youth-led movement at a time that people did not hear us out. And look at us now, right? It shows that the investment in leadership development actually pays off. And it doesn't pay off just once, it pays off 100 times. Because think about the hundreds of thousands of lives that the four of us actually collective have been able to impact. Because at one point, somebody gave us a chance. Because at one point, somebody said their cell phone on a TV ad, whatever it may be, we found our way here. And now we are leading movements. We will continue to do so. And at the same time, like Rosa said, we are empowering the next generation. So here at Hope, we launched Hope University. This last year, we've trained 600 young people from all across Florida on organizing civic engagement and building the kind of movement that we all deserve because it is true, we deserve to thrive and we belong here. We belong in the South. We shouldn't have to leave to find our home. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Felipe. My name is Cuna. I'm the executive director of the Semilla project. And as my other peers have shared, I joined the movement as undocumented. I feel alone, isolated. I didn't find a voice. And during that time in Santa Fe, New Mexico, we didn't have driving license, either in state tuition. And all this anger, all this insecurity, all this loneliness, I channeled and I joined the walkout in my high school. And when I joined that walkout in my high school, it was the first time that I was able to come out and say, I'm undocumented. I'm undocumented and I deserve to be here. And that is the moment that changed my life completely. That moment for me, I joined a movement that welcomed me and I was belong. I felt for the first time I was seen and was here and I was loved. I was loved for a chosen family. And I grew up in the immigrant movement. As I'm growing up in the immigrant movement, there came a moment of realization and responsibility. Organizing in urgency and struggle also burnout. And that was a moment of decision in 2021 when me and other peers in the organizing movement to say, what about if we dream a little bit bigger? What about if we organize now based on connection and strengths? What about if we organize fighting for what it can be our whole self and not just our immigration identity? And that's the moment when the Semilla project was funded, that we believe that we can thrive and organize by connecting with Mother Earth, with the land, with the culture, with who we are fully. In that way, we can be sustainable, not just for this generation, for the upcoming generations, to see what it would be like the most radical action that we can do is to be our whole selves. And that is what we believe, that we can also organize by thriving and by abundance and collecting care. And that's who I am and the reason why I do what I do, because I know this is what ripple effect for my upcoming generations and my kids. Everything that I do today is for my kids. And that is who I am, and I send it back to you, Byron.
Just want to take a moment and thank all four of you for sharing your stories. It's really important, I think, for us to ground ourselves in our experiences and the expertise that you bring here, and your openness to share your story with people on the other end of the screen who don't know you. And this actually made me decide to pivot and kind of switch around some of the questions in our guiding question script based on your stories. Immigration and citizenship and documentation status is an issue at the top of mind, not just because of the VP debate 2 nights ago, or the last 4 years, or 8 years, or 50 years. Xenophobia establishes and reinforces borders developed by history of colonialism and racism, and is continuing to dehumanize, criminalize, and other our families, friends, and communities. Some would love to hear stories or what have you seen on the ground that is protecting the humanity of our people with diverse citizenship statuses? Anyone could start.
I can go. I think one of the biggest components that we have been working with is being our own advocates and sharing our narratives, our true stories. I have a story that I want to share with y'all. My colleague Maria and I went to visit Senator Blumenthal. Y'all know that Senator Murphy, pardon. Y'all know that he's the author of the border bill that none of us support. We told him, Senator, none of the organizations that live in Connecticut support this, and neither do we. What are we going to do about it? And it was a really difficult conversation, but I think one of the moments that I am really proud of was when my colleague Maria said, Senator, the DACA program is up for debate and it'll be decided on in a couple of weeks. What are you going to do with people like me and the other 8,952 documented individuals in Connecticut? And his jaw dropped. He didn't know what to say. But it's those stories that get us the results that we need, because he needs to see that who he's harming with these policies. After that meeting, he committed that he was not going to put this border bill back on the floor. I call that a win, but I also use that moment to empower our communities because our stories are so important. And the reason that we need to continue to share our true narratives, because we cannot let these false narratives, these xenophobic comments overpower, and just being our own advocates, speak truth to power, and always share the stories that we carry.
I so agree with Rosa about the power of storytelling. I want to bring in somebody in particular, a farm worker. Her name is Maria. She's one of the members of the Hope Community Center. In the aftermath of SB 1718, which is this really deeply anti-immigrant law that passed here in Florida, we fought really hard and we were able to water down the bill in several ways, including keeping in-state tuition for undocumented youth. But some parts of the bill did pass. And an online call to do a day without an immigrant on June 1st, a couple of years ago came about. And honestly, I was exhausted. I left all on my entire life on the line, including getting arrested inside of the governor's office. But one day Maria comes into the office and she talks to me and she says, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about this day without an immigrant? I already organized my friends at the nursery that I work at so we can walk out and we can do something." You know, that was a call in for me. It was a moment for me to be more courageous, to lean in and to listen to the community. So we literally organized a huge protest outside of a legislator who is a Latina that voted in favor of the bill. Right outside her office, and I thought 50 people was going to show up. So I didn't even ask for a permit. I just basically planned this impromptu protest, thinking no one was going to really show up. And then 500 people came, including truck drivers with their trucks and all these things. And as the trucks were coming, my first thought was, oh my God, what are we going to do? We don't have a permit, and they're blocking the street. So I go up to the truck driver and I ask him, hey, you know, just so you know, we don't have a permit. I'm not sure what's going to go down. And then he looked at me and he said, "Nosotros vivimos en una democracia y tenemos el poder de hablar." And I was like, you know what, you're right. We live in a democracy and we have the right to speak up. So I was like, you know what, let me move my podium to the middle of the street. And we did. We held that protest, closed down that street, literally for 2 hours, police, helicopters, the news, you name it. But for that day, 50 businesses in the Orange County area closed down. 100 showed up to this protest that I thought only 50 people were going to show up to. We really made our voices heard. And everything began with Maria coming to my office and saying, what are we going to do? And us having the leadership really to lean in and to say, you know what, we got to listen to our community.
Building up on what Felipe and Rosa has been sharing, something that is not talked as much is how our immigrants community has been building the backbone of a lot of the democracy has moving forward. The majority of the local campaigns, issue campaigns, free childcare in New Mexico, redistricting in New Mexico has been won and organized by immigrant communities. The majority of the folks that are right now make sure that people vote, do YoTV, door knocking, phone banking, walking hours, and with the heat in their face, and then like with no water, like it's our community, because they know in this election and in every single cycle, our lives is at the line. And it's our communities, those immigrant communities that usually we hear in debate talking about how less humans we are, how criminals we are, how imposter we are. We are the ones who are saving this fucking democracy. And we do not deserve that we continue talking continue talking about us as inferior sofa that we don't belong. Our communities belong to this land base. Our communities are in relationship with this land. Our communities work this land. Our communities has taken care of this land. And our communities are right now, at this moment, taking the action to build a democracy that is inclusive, that it will represent our values, and it will build for upcoming generations. And I think sometimes we forget, mainly the progressive movement and other movement, who's really doing the work at the ground. And it's us, because we have nothing to fear, because we have lost everything. And we are ready to lose now the chains and be able to really embrace the freedom that we deserve. And I just wanted to just like I share that because that's what we are doing at this moment and in every single cycle. They never give up.
Let's go. Wepa, Eli. Let's go. That's right. I think so often, thank you for sharing this. So often, like our democracy, like has moved forward by like liberatory movements of people of color, right? And thank you for sharing that. I think that I want to ask a regional question. So Latinos make up 19% of the U.S. population. The South has seen the fastest growth of the Latina population in the United States since 2010. According, nearly half of the total growth of the Latina population in the U.S. has come from the South in the last 14 years. New Mexico has the highest percentage of Latinas in the United States, with 48.6% of the state's population identifying as Hispanic or Latino in 2023. Daniela, as someone working in rural South, what is the story of the Latina movement in the South, and why is it important for philanthropy to resource rural communities?
So Georgia is rapidly growing. The number of Latinx people in our state is growing. Right now, Georgia is home to more than 1 million Latinx. It's one of the top 10 states with the largest Latinx population. Unfortunately, especially in rural communities, Black and Brown communities have historically been marginalized in South Georgia, especially in rural communities. Through the work that I have been doing with Migrant Equity Southeast, we see that there is a lack of language access. We do not have access to driver's licenses, but we also do not have the best public transportation. So this means that every day undocumented people from our communities can be victims of police racial profiling and can also face deportation for driving without a license. Also in different sectors such as healthcare, education, and government, our communities continue to not be seen as a priority. Like we're not included in the decision making, we're not included in the budget. We're left behind. Oftentimes people say, yeah, we really care about the Latinx community. And then what I see is that they care to tokenize us, but they don't care to include us in the decision making process. They don't include us in the budget. They don't allocate funding for translation and interpretation. So there continues to be disproportionate access to resources. And to be honest, rural communities always get underfunded. But the reality is that as rent gets more expensive in the big cities, more people every day are moving to the South because we have more job opportunities. Rent can be a little bit less expensive, but when people come down here, that doesn't mean that there's an abundance of resources coming to the South as well.
Thank you, Daniela. Elia, someone based in New Mexico, representing part of the Southwest, like again, largest Latino population. What do you see as like the Latina movement in the Southwest?
Well, what I have seen and what I see today is that we have been historically underfunded. Our frontline communities in the Southwest are the ones who are facing the most drastic climate changes that are in this at this moment, from fires to flooding, to the lack of infrastructure to even keep our families safe, to the really like the climate change that we are facing. But at the same time, we are so underfunded for the infrastructure for us to be able to really create prosperity for our families. The majority, we are coming with a new energy transition in the Southwest, when our communities has been giving their lives and their bodies for a lot of the other corporation like oil and gas, who has been like the only way how they can sustain their livelihood. And with the new transition, there's new jobs, yes, but poor jobs, not good jobs, really. Not just for a livelihood for our communities. When you arrive for a rural community with a big company of solar panels, but there's no clean water for them. There is no energy that can access. So we have been underfunded, like historically and disproportionately in the Southwest. But the truth of the matter is, this is the most resilient communities I have experienced. The genius on them to really provide solutions to the problems. The way how did we organize, in the way how we react to the urgency. That is the opportunity that exists for philanthropy, to tap in that geniuses, to tap in those strategies that our community knows the solutions. Our communities know what they need. They just need their resources. They just need the resources to make sure that we have a clear pathway for a prosperity life, a clear pathway for a dignified living. And that it has been happening in the Southwest. And the truth of the matter is the majority of our communities are moving to rural towns because of the needs of housing, because of the needs to just at least not be at the not be in the criminalizing system all the time, right? But that means also they are challenging, they are bringing and reactivating economies of towns that they didn't have economy before because of a lot of immigration happening in the Southwest. So that is what I have seen in the Southwest. Also, and a strategic partnership that we create with a lot of our tribal and Native American communities, because we know we have been impacted by the same forces. And now by building these strategic alliances, we can build a strong front line that we can push back for what we want to see in our communities and what we want to see as a community agreements for the new economy, the climate, and also immigration in these areas.
Thank you,
Something
Ellie.
else too that I wanted, thank you, I just wanted to add something real quickly too. That right now, in terms of data, we see that the Latinx community from South Georgia continues to grow each year. And in many counties, we're actually the third highest demographic. So when we are the third highest demographic, it also means that we need more clinics, we need more bilingual healthcare providers, we need more bilingual teachers, we need more advocates who will continue to empower the community so that they can thrive and live with dignity and respect in the South. I know somebody mentioned that we have the right to live with dignity and respect in the places where we are. We already face family separation from coming to different countries. We shouldn't have to face family separation again, having to move to different states that are more immigrant friendly. Right now, for example, in South Georgia, there is a lot of development, and this means that there's many folks from the Latinx community who are working these jobs. For example, during COVID, immigrant farm workers were the ones working during COVID. So it is important. I think it's so important to remind everyone that the workers who are coming to this region are not just workers. Like, they're part of a family. They bring their families, and they're also people who have dreams and aspirations. One thing that I would say for other people that are watching is that please believe in us. Like, we're the people in the ground and we're transforming the South, but we need your support. Please believe your leadership. We know what we're doing. Ask us the questions. Don't say, oh, maybe they haven't thought about how to fix that. Yes, we have, and we're trying, but we need you to follow our leadership, to listen to us. And that's how we can continue to create change. Again, grassroots leaders are really underfunded, doing the most that we can, but we need all the support. And that means funding and for y'all to listen to us.
Thank you, Daniela. I think, so the PB&J cohort is not only composed of Latina-led organizations. HIP has also funded Black and Indigenous-led organizations with understanding that our liberation isn't inherently tied to that of all people of color, right? And I think, Ellie, you kind of brought this up with the work that you're doing in Indigenous communities. Daniela, I think, like in the state of Georgia, where there's, in the South, where there tends to be a very like black and white dynamic, like this idea of like the Latine movement in the South is also really important to bring into the conversations. To Rosa and Felipe, like how is multiracial democracy and coalition building reflected? How is it reflected in your work?
We are so much stronger together. White supremacy fears BIPOC unity. And that's why they pit us against each other. But the system that deports and separates our families, incarcerates and kills our Black siblings. So when we unite, that is a crucial component of our work. Building a multiracial democracy is crucial for fostering inclusive and an equitable society. A lot of the work that I have done in Arkansas on the ground has included our Black siblings because it's so important that they also see us together. But we have to engage in honest discussions about race and how it enhances our civic education and empowers our citizens. As to Daniela's point, our farm workers are also Black in Arkansas, and they are continuously kept out of the conversation. So when our Black and brown farm workers unite, they get better wages, they get better treatment, they get better hours. So it's so important to foster that unity, and it's vital for the sustainability of democracy itself. One of the biggest components of my work was working with the Black Caucus. In Arkansas, we don't have any Latinx legislators. So I had to move the strategy and try to figure out how we were going to pass our DREAM Act, how we were going to pass our professional licenses. You know who allowed me to do this? It was the Black Caucus. They were the ones that introduced the bills for us. They were the ones that supported those bills for us. And they didn't have to do that, but they did because it was the right thing to do. We brought the stories. A lot of the folks that supported us during the legislative session were the Black organizers that were on the ground. They were sharing the stories, not because it affected them directly, but because it was the right thing to do. And that's why I will forever continue to foster that unity amongst Black and brown communities. And we just need to be intentional about that inclusion in the work that we're doing.
I am in agreement, absolutely. So here in Florida, we have a very large and historically large Latina community all over the state. And we're actually really diverse, which makes it a little bit different than other parts of the country where we have people from all over Latin America in large numbers. Which creates some challenges, but lots of opportunities too. And I bring that up because a big piece of our organizing is actually Black immigrants. So oftentimes Black immigrants are not included in the conversation about immigration reform or immigrant rights. But in the context of Florida, it's impossible to talk about immigrant rights without including Haitians, including our Caribbean siblings from all across the diaspora. And that lends itself into a lot of conversations about race, both internally, but also externally. Similar to the conversation that Rosa is bringing here, some of our biggest and most important advocates for immigrant rights are actually Black legislators from the Black Caucus. Sometimes, to be honest with you, in Florida, we can't necessarily count on the Hispanic Caucus, which is not necessarily pro-immigrant, but we can always count on the Black Caucus to stand up for immigrants in a robust and a powerful way. So the work that we do is really rooted in the fact that in order for us to truly live in a democracy where all of us can exist and where all of us can contribute, where we can all thrive, we have to center race. And we have to look into ways in which we can build alliances and, most importantly, true relationships that are rooted in the understanding that our struggles and our liberation is connected, not just in a rhetoric way, but rather in not only in words, but also in action. So a quick example is we launched a pretty large civic engagement campaign with the goal of having 20,000 conversations called Vota por mí, because so many immigrants can't vote because we're not US citizens yet. But like Ellie said, independently of our immigration status, we go out there and knock at every door. And a lot of the doors that we are knocking are of our Black neighbors who understand what it feels like to be ostracized, who understands what it feels like to not be included. And the conversations at the doors are actually incredible. Last weekend, I talked to an elderly Black woman who basically talked to me about the state of segregation because she grew up in a segregated Florida, and why she believes that coming out to vote, centering the stories of immigrants, is a way to break through a new paradigm, not only for immigrants, but for our entire country. And, you know, we find solidarity in our neighbors, in our people, in everyone. But I just wanted to say that as an immigrant rights movement, understanding and centering these experiences is critical. And it's a big part of what we do. Our histories are connected.
Thank you, folks. I have two more questions. I'm going to see if I can combine them because I want to see if we can get to some potential participants' questions and definitely do a call out before we wrap up today's event. So going back to the film that we did together collectively as part of the PB&J learning community, the narrative film is essentially leaning into the healing justice space. So combining my last two questions, one, why is it important for community organizers to lean into their healing journey? And two, if you were fully resourced and you could fund your dream, what would that be? Let me go backwards. Let me go Eli, Felipe, Daniela, Rosa this time.
That's a hard. If I get full funded and I can do and dream big, how it will look for me is that for young people and communities of color that are feeling at this moment in isolation, that are feeling at this moment that they do not belong, that the only value that they bring to this country is production and working, that they need to feel validated by all these systems has been created. They are able to break through free, to really see themselves as responsible of their well-being, as responsible of the well-being around them, to be able that they belong to the earth, and as that they belong to the earth, they love themselves. As because I love myself, I can love others and respect others. And because I'm doing that, I'm gonna fight for what you need, and you're gonna fight for what I need. And all that is providing a really collective care and abundance. If we as an organization and a movement, we can bring leaders to see their full potential, their love for themselves, and organize in abundance and collective care, that's going to be a ripple effect in the liberation of all of us. Liberation is no perfection. Liberation is being who we are with the edges and with all the things that we bring to this earth. And for that, that is what I believe it will be. If we are getting fully funded, we will be all living in the mountains, having community gardens, sharing the education of all children, having free childcare, having guaranteed basic income, and really be able to live and enjoy life. That's what it will look like. And probably the upcoming generation will take that. But that is my dream.
What a beautiful dream, Ellie. I shared that dream with you. So I want to begin with the conversation about healing justice, right? Yesterday, after a long day at work, I came home to have a few more conversations about my own family members who are currently on a final deportation order, trying to stop a deportation. This is my life, literally. This is not just my work. I live it. I embody it. Every time I get out of my house with my husband and hold hands with him, I am running a risk living in Florida. Every single time that I get in my car and I drive to work, I'm running a risk of being stopped because I'm Latine. These are things that I'm dealing with. So finding a place in which I can really rejuvenate and find a way to heal from these attacks that are constant and nonstop, it gives me the ability to actually breathe better. And that allows me to be more effective. And in terms of my dream, my big dream is to build the Highlander of Florida. I want to build the place in which the Felipes like me, the little boys that grew up in Brazil in a slum, who find themselves in the United States as undocumented and may not have any hope, that they find hope. I actually truly believe that the Rosa Parks of our times are here today. And what we got to do is to recruit her, train her, empower her, and then we will have the bus boycott of our lifetime right now. So this is what we're investing on, and this is what being fully invested means to me. It means that people like me can exist, that I'm not just one, but that I am a million.
I definitely sharing all those same feelings and sentiments. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. I feel so inspired. But I guess I want to start this moment by acknowledging what is happening in my community right now, and how, especially after the hurricane, like right now in rural communities of South Georgia, there's communities where 90% of the counties don't have access to power, water, and for these communities, as we speak, healing can be a privilege because right now they're too busy surviving. My dream is for everyone to feel that having access to personal healing is not a privilege. It is a right. This work is not easy. It can be mentally draining. For example, from my point of view, when we hear politicians talk about our communities without dignity or respect, it can be very frustrating. It's important to work in our own healing so that we continue to remind each other every day that we're beautiful, extraordinary, and amazing people. And even when the systems in place and in power continue to tell us that we're not, we say, no, yes, we are. We are beautiful people who have the right to dream and to live with dignity and respect. Also, I think it's so important to work in our own healing so that we can continue to work in our communities, especially in the US and this system that wants us to be thinking of survival of the fittest, and to have a mindset of individualism, an individualistic mindset. We should not forget our values, and we have to hold ourselves accountable, as it was mentioned before, that we need to remember. We must not forget that it's about all of us or none of us, and that none of us are free until all of us are free. When we work in our own healing, we can also become better leaders in our communities so that we can lead by example. And in order to take care of others, we must take care of ourselves. Right now, to be honest, the work is not being easy. Like, I feel like I have to be pulled in so many directions to help my community. But I need to remember that I need to pause. I need to be healed so that I can help my community. And I think oftentimes, as many of us are doing this type of work, we always want to save everyone. We always want to be there for everyone, that we need to remember that we need to be there for ourselves too.
Thank you, Dani. And just echoing what my colleagues are saying, rest should not be radical. Rest should be normalized. We as community organizers play crucial roles in addressing social issues and advocating for systemic change, but it's essential for us to engage in our own healing journeys because it's interconnected, right? Building resilience and preventing burnout. A lot of us have been doing this work for over 15 years. It's hard and dealing with the daily, like I get a call at 11 o'clock, hey, my brother has been deported or my sister's in detention. And I'm like, I'm just trying to sleep, bro. You know, it's hard, but once we foster that healthy relationship with healing, I think we are better advocates for our community. And we need to promote collective healing. One of the things that I have been successfully able to do is raise funds. And that's why philanthropy is so important. But when they listen to us, it's even life-changing, right? I was able to ask for a wellness grant for my staff. I took all of my staff and all of my board to Ellie's land, to Nuevo Mexico, and we were there for a week. The beauty of the location that we were at served as rest for us. But it also served as a place of fostering community with the board and the staff. We were able to do so much work, but it was in an environment where we weren't fast-paced, where we were relaxed. And it was something that, that we weren't able to do if we hadn't have put this in front of our funders and said, hey, we need money for wellness. And they listened, and we were able to do that. And in that essence of funding, I think for me, if my organization was fully resourced, I want free legal services for my community. You know that in the Latino community, we love a good attorney that's going to be helping us, and we love free consultations. And I think it's important. There are so many pathways that I know of now because of the possibility of us connecting with these attorneys. So legal aid for free for everyone. Financial assistance, creating funds for supporting immigrant families that are facing economic hardships. We should be able to provide resources for our community. A national undocu fund, if you want to call it. But it directly aids those that are in need. Also providing education and advocacy, expanding programs to educate our immigrants about our rights and how to advocate for those policy changes, but also putting our youth front and center, and teaching them the skill set that got us to where we're at now. Because again, we need to invest in them because they are the foundation of the future that we are trying to build. And finally, I think a lot of this, especially in the Latinx community, is seen as taboo, right? But mental health support. I remember that whenever I first started therapy, my dad was like, pero tú no estás loca. And I was like, but I do need some support. So offering mental health service tailored to the unique challenges faced by immigrants, I think it fosters resilience within our communities as well. Normalizing mental health is so important and crucial to continuing our work. And I think this would all aim to empower immigrants and just promote our dignity and our rights.
Thank you. Really appreciate all of y'all. Amazing. We do have a question from the audience. I want to get to it to bring the audience in. But I think just reflecting, I think like there's a lot of us that live in between like resiliency and despair, right? And white supremacy makes it hard to move towards resiliency. But for me, I think the healing work allows us to sit more in the resilient space. And so I think that one thing that I would love to advocate is for like this healing work to be more fully funded by like foundations and philanthropy to allow y'all that space to be able to do the work. So bringing in a question from the audience, and we're running down right now, we're running out of time, so I want to make sure we get to it. It says, you mentioned leadership development is important. What kinds of support do you seek for yourself as leaders in your work in life, and are you able to access that support yourselves?
It's so funny. Thank you for the question, by the way. I think that there is definitely more support that can be given to leaders in the movement in seeking support, seeking that leadership development. And some of it can actually come from philanthropy. So because of one of our philanthropic partners, I have a coach with the management center that helps me with the management piece, but also I seek out support from my peers. Literally right before we started this conversation, I sent a quick message to Ellie and said, hey, Ellie, can we talk? I have some questions for you. So the circle of support and mentorship and peer mentorship is so critical. But I do want to advocate for funding specific to support movement leaders that are in leadership places. Usually being an executive director can be a really lonely place where we are trying to push our organizations to achieve a lot of things, meet the needs of our community. And that also means oftentimes that we're not really thinking of ourselves. So having someone that we can lean on, that can support us through it all, is critical, but it's really expensive. And because of the way that we do budgeting, we oftentimes put all the money towards the community and not enough on ourselves. So I want to advocate for that. And also for learning circles like we experience here at HIP. This was so incredibly beautiful to be around 20 plus leaders that are going through very similar issues and also have a lot of lessons learned. If we didn't have the resources to actually meet in person, have facilitators that supported us through it all, we wouldn't been able to achieve so much in a year span. So, a lot of this comes down to time and resources. We're willing to give the time, but we hope that we can count on your support on the resources.
Thank you, Felipe. Anyone else as we kind of close out?
Yes,
Daniela?
I definitely agree with like having circles of people that can support you. As Felipe mentioned, this work is lonely. As an organizer in South Georgia, I'm oftentimes the only Latina in the room, the only immigrant in the room, and being in these spaces can be so extractive, and you feel alone. But coming together with other amazing people that are doing amazing work in other parts of the U.S., it's a great reminder that we're not alone, that there's so many others also doing their own thing in their communities, and that's so important. So again, check on your executive directors, check on your leaders, always check on them, because they're too busy checking on community that they forget to check on themselves.
Yeah, I wanted to add something, and this is a request. When we say that we want to create a space for us to have this support system and being and sharing our best practices and all that, it will require for organizations to take out our capacity, right? And taking out a break of our capacity for organization like us means that probably we are gonna put on hold like 4 roles of the organization. And that's when the resources is really important. When we say the rest is a right and it should be normalized, that means also production will have an impact. And I don't think if philanthropy has been engaging in the conversation of like what we're gonna be okay seeing of a successful, a thriving organization, right? And that means that the investment needs to be to really build a strong infrastructure in our organizations for HR, for finance, audit, like at those all like organizational strengths and resources that is in the backbone of our organization for us to do the work that we do, and it has impact. But it will be that the most important piece, putting money for organizational development, general funding, multi-year, more than 300K, cut the check. We know what we're gonna do with that money.
Thank you, Elise. Rosa, if you can give the last word and we'll wrap up today.
Thank you. Just echoing the sentiments of all of my colleagues, right? And I said it in the film as well. When philanthropy listens, change is inevitable. I think our leader, Mayuan, has done an amazing job at listening to us and what our needs are. And he has been very thorough and intentional about putting in place the requests that we have. General operating is amazing, but multi-year would be incredible. And we're not talking about 2 or 3 years, because campaigns don't only last for 2 to 3 years. We're continuing this work. Some of us have been doing this for 15 years. So continuous support is also super important. And I welcome the foundations and philanthropy to come down to the ground to help us do the groundwork. I want you to see what your dollars are working on. I want you to see that it's not us just writing, a 30-page report. We are literally changing lives, but we need continuous support. We are hella creative when it comes to resources, but it shouldn't be like that. We should feel secure, and we should feel that the support is going to continue to be there, because change, again, is inevitable. And if we can have foundations on our side to be able to support that, you're going to be my favorite people. But the work is going to continue, and I appreciate the work that that my colleagues Daniela, Eli, Felipe, and the 20+ folks for the Power Building and Justice cohort have been doing. We're changing lives. Come work by our side, and watch this change be created within our lifetime. So thank you, Bayon. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you all. You are some of my favorite people, as I've said, and I say it often. This is some of my favorite spaces to be in philanthropy and community with y'all. I want to thank you all for sharing your stories today, parting some wisdom with us, dropping some jewels. Want to give a shout out to Revolve Impact, to my colegas at HIP, to Lupita Infante and Bacilia Angel. We're actually going to wrap up today with the Grita, Canta, Vota song that you can find on YouTube. Yeah, and peace to all. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
El voto hispano cada día tiene más peso en las elecciones de los Estados Unidos según las estadísticas.
Somos latinos, que no se te olvide, somos importantes para el crecimiento. Por un buen futuro haremos historias, pues somos guerreros. Aunque lejos estemos de nuestra gente, trabajamos incansablemente para darle a nuestra familia un mejor vivir. Por eso grita, canta, vota. El futuro está en tus manos. Lucharemos como hermanos por la libertad. Grita, canta, vota. Juntos celebramos. Puedo oír tu voz cantando por la libertad. Grita, canta, vota. El futuro está en tus manos. Lucharemos como hermanos por la libertad.